Hi everybody. Today I would like to present a rather vast bulk of material, so I would like to advise you to look at it in chapters. It's going to be very big in terms of time. It's really an in-depth sort of review on the essence of the energy itself. The deliverance of the counterfeit spirit is something that we need to address in a very particular way. Doing the research on the work, the particular material that I was sourcing the material from was actually quite interesting. I experienced I feel like I need to tell you this before I start. That I was experiencing quite a lot of anomalies, just a few things or so, but mostly my smell, the smell of dead carrion meat, rotten meat. I was smelling that all the time while I was working with it. I was also smelling a putrid sort of tire burn smell as well, and the stench of that material. I'm assuming that it is. I often get the sense of smell from certain works that I work with or people that I deal with or whatever. They give off smell. So I'm saying this to you because the frequencies of the smell itself, not real physical smell, but psychic smell, and then also, of course, the visual disturbances which goes along with most of these works when they set these things up, when they write these things, whatever they intentionally put in place, they write it with a particular spell work in mind or an incantation. So the interesting thing is, when I explored the Kabbalah stuff, there was a lot of sight anomalies. So that definitely tells you that there's also. So that frequency was the same in terms of this particular material. So I deduct from that it is definitely founded again from Kabbalah. I don't know how else I can say it other than that it's being taken from these particular sources, because it seems to be the only thing that they don't have the original ability to write these things. So this is why I'm bringing it up. My sense of smell, my observation of these things tell me that I'm dealing with a particular degree of entity or energy or element or person or place that is in the same capacity as the same frequency from whatever the source is. Okay, so this is why I needed to explain to you that, so that you know before I start what is synonymous and what is associated with this particular work is the smell of dead or death, and I am bringing it up so that you understand the magic that was used to write these books is also very heavily coming from the Kabbalist. Like I said, Kabbalah, Kabbalistic magic, Babylonian magic, Solomonic magic, and Persia. I'm not saying that that's basically what I picked up, and then afterwards, after I read the books, did I see, okay, so the author does mention that that's where he got his stuff from, though he didn't say the other parts. The fact is, that's what I want you to take note. I'm also not telling you that you're going to be smelling it either, because you won't, because the magic that was used to write the material has basically been dismantled. So it is pre-prepared for you to be able to understand the depth of the material itself. So towards the end of the work, the smell started to dissipate, and the clarity started to become more apparent. And when we come to the sort of conclusion part of the video, the resolution will be pretty self-explanatory to any of you. So don't listen to it all at once, and please do not listen to this or before you go to sleep. Don't do that. Don't ever do that to anyone's video. It doesn't matter who they are to you. do not ever listen to a video before you go to sleep. It's not advisable to do that, because that does not give you the space of your own consciousness to explore your own inner space or sanctuary or sanctity. So this is just a heads up that you know what you're going to be in for. Okay, so let's begin. Before I start, the references will be in the description, so please be mindful that that is where it is. So sometimes we need to look at other things in order to ascertain what we know within ourselves. In other words, we have to look at things on the outside, or look at certain things around us, or look at things in general to be able to ascertain what we already know. This is a way of how metaphysics also operates, where you're able to look at certain things that can actually tell you, oh, okay, so I was right on the button with this or that or so and so. So this is why it's important to take note on that sort. We will learn in the process of this work that the energy that was used in the material that has been put out there for the world to work on, I would like to ask for you to pay attention to that energy. That energy is what I call the counterfeit spirit. I want you to take note of that energy and see how it operates throughout the course of the material. So the following material will relate to those who practice the intentions from certain forces, such as the archetype Lucifer, in other words, such as luciferianism as the main root, but also dominating the magical practices, which often is used to harm people and harm those that they seek to take energy from. Okay, so already within that premise, it is already important to take note about the radical shifting that's taking place currently as we speak in the realm. There's definitely a shuffling around of positions. People are trying to go to different sides now because they have been exposed, and so they're going to keep doing this left and right movement all the time. Not saying that you now suddenly changed your mind or any of that. That can happen, but there is now deliberate movement between those two poles. They will always do that, and they will give themselves away each and every moment of the time. Okay, so at the energy itself, I would like to also bring to your attention that you're going to be looking at an illusion and how to deal with the illusion in the last part of the video, because most of the time these type of illusions are created so that you will give it sustenance, so that it will become formulated in your consciousness and therefore then become a reality, because that illusion is based on a false dark or a false light frequency. And the false light and the false dark frequency is a man-made frequency that has been used to create whatever its purpose was from the start. So seeing things for what they really are is why you are here on this channel. And also thank you very much for your support and your questions, and also canvassing through the work. I hope that it is giving you some wisdom and some insights as well. So we are looking at false light and false dark. I've spoken about this before. It is in the channel itself. You'll see probably a few years ago. It comes up again, but now it is now more apparent than usual. I've discussed this before, but never in such depth. So luciferianism is one of these constructs as a false light construct, which utilizes itself or expresses itself as a false dark. In other words, they call it the left-hand path. That is just what it is. It is just a frequency that is projecting itself into the system as a particular religion. Okay, because that's what it's doing. And the main focus on the Luciferian path or the left-hand path is built on the encouragement of self-worship and self-deification. In other words, to become a god, to defy all whatever, just to become a superhero. That's the same thing as what happens with the Christian religions as well. They push the hero program as well. Like I say, these people that bring these things up are extremely not original. They take things from people and they make it their own. Much like you can also see that the information that has been spread around in the world, if you have eyes to see, you'll see the duplicates all the time. Okay, it's quite sad that people are so lazy that they don't go into their own consciousness to invent things. Like I said, I think the inventors were murdered and removed out of the consciousness of the system of the human race, because there doesn't seem to be a lot of them around. The driving force for the luciferianism or the left-hand path is no different than the right-hand path. It operates in the same frequency. It's just a mirror of the other. Like I said, a false light or a false dark. It is exactly the same construct. It is created with mankind as that. It's man-made. It is not coming from the original creative force or spirit or great spirit. It is coming from man's own notions of his, herself, itself. It is also the fuel that has created or brought forward or birthed into this realm, as called the counterfeit spirit. That's what I'm calling it, because that counterfeit spirit is the same material or the same power that fuels the wicked agency. If you don't understand what the wicked agency is about, please look at the channel. You'll see the video called The Wicked Agency. That is just the proof of the counterfeit spirit in action. And that is how the counterfeit spirit operates within the realm itself. I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, that this world, this realm is built on metaphysics, as the way that it functions is very much powerfully keyed into consciousness. Almost predominantly in the world, it is always about what the one hand can reveal to the other hand or hide the hand itself that has thrown the rock. It is all about subterfuge. It is all about trying to hide something that is of truth, and the focus is heavily pronounced on illusion and magic spells. This is part of the counterfeit spirit. The counterfeit spirit is because it mimics these forces that are natural in the environment, that are naturally attuned within your consciousness. And these natural forces are, for example, psychic abilities or consciousness, dream work, etc., etc. However you want to look at it, senses are mimicked. Certain people are mimicked. People that go into relationships with other people, they mimic those people. I'm not saying it as everyone is going through that. I'm saying this is what it does. You should know if you're involved in a relationship where you're dealing with someone that is mimicking you or not. This is up to you. This is your own pathway. I'm just sharing with you information, and you must make with it what you do in yourself. It is a spirit that is constructed out of many believers, many followers, many practitioners, many practices, many ideologies, many belief systems, many rules and regulations that have been created by two people, for people to adhere to become subjected to. That is what I'm saying. So a narrative, in other words, or an egregore. Okay, and this egregore is, in this particular case, heavily influenced by Persian mythology, Persian rituals, which the author actually makes clear at the end of his book as well. He also makes it clear that yes, his work is copyrighted, but at the same time he says he takes no responsibility for how the work is being treated or abused by. So in other words, that in itself is Hegelian dialectic. So I don't Yeah, that is a Hegelian dialectic. Either you say it is like this, or you say it is not like that. If you say it is like this, you take responsibility for X, Y, and Z. Either way. But that is my opinion. That is my personal opinion. So it's not related to the author or the followers of that particular religion. It is a religion because there was a church in that name of that archetype as well. So I wish I could say that it's only just Luciferians or Satanists or Solomonic practitioners or Persian witchery or Freemasons or Babylonian magic or Christians or churches, or I wish I could say that it's just one of those, but it's not. The counterfeit spirit operates in all of those frequencies, all of those things that create a consensus where a person becomes subjected to a particular belief system, a particular narrative that is being played out, where there is a sacrifice taking place, where there is an offering taking place, where there is a forming of surrendering a part of itself, yourself, where you are scapegoated for something particularly, where you take responsibility when it's not yours to take, when you are in a position where you are under a particular belief system, you are then subjected. You are the subject. You are like the king, the subject that goes and kneels before the king. That is what is called a subject. So you are a subject. You are subjected to that thing that is above you. Yeah, and that's where it is. So this is why external religions require something to be worshipped so that a person can be subjected to it. Okay, which is not the case on this channel, which is not the case with regards to the material and the philosophy that is being discussed on this channel. It is about becoming fully empowered within the self and doing this in a natural way that does not forces you to become subjected to anything. If there's any subjection taking place, then it is because you place yourself under something. You put yourself under the rock, okay, and you are subjected to that rock. If someone takes the rock away from you, you are exposed and vulnerable. That is what the difference is. This is why I always keep saying everything is within you, and you will see towards the end where I clarify that even more. So it's not just Satanists, it's not just Luciferians, it's not just these guys, it's not just Buddhists, it's not just churches, it's not even Masons, it's not just only the Masons, it's not just only the Kabbalists, although the Kabbalists seem to have a predominant bigger footprint, so everyone dips into that footprint as well to copy and paste and, like they do with the Star Wars movies. So this is why it is important to understand that the frequency that has been existing, that has been there for quite some time, has been birthed from the idea that one needs to be subjected to something, to a temple, to a god, to a statue, to a this, to a that. That is what that is. Okay, and that spirit that comes from that frequency is called the counterfeit spirit. You want to call it the devil, but it's more than just that. The word the devil is just a devil. It's just something that has tied you into something, but you're still able to move away from it. If you look at the tarot cards, the devil card has two people chained, yet they can take the chain off and walk away from it. So it's people who want to be slave or subjected to a particular belief system, and that essence, that energy in itself is called the counterfeit spirit. So understand that we're talking about something that has a type of anthropomorphic presence. Perhaps it has a type of spiritual presence, perhaps it has a human quality to it. It's got all of those qualities. If you had to take all the people, all the humans together that love to be subjected to something outside of themselves, that blob would be called the counterfeit spirit. But it's in this work, the information that is being presented will obviously dismantle the entire frequency with regards to that. And yeah, I will leave that to you at the end. It is more amplified and more visible than ever before, because you've successfully withdrawn your energy. This is why it's now more present. The more there are people that truly love themselves in a natural, balanced way within the frequency of the heart, and the luciferianism doctrines copy the same information that I'm telling you. They're taking that information and they're making it a little bit more edgier. Okay, that aside, to come back to why it is more exposed now is because there are more of you that have been helping yourself in a natural way, where, and now you didn't go and slaughter goats or have sex magic parties every Friday when it's full moon, for example. You've not done any of that stuff. You've just basically focused on yourself. You've started to practice self-care. You've started to nurture yourself. You've done exercises to build your, to get fit. You've stopped eating rubbish. You love your kids. You've looked for another job. You are in a relationship with someone that actually cares for you and doesn't abuse you. That's how you change the frequency for yourself. That's how you move away from a thing that is trying to subject you. Okay, and that is how you are in protection, always in a loving protection, connecting and communing with the original creative force, which is Great Spirit. Okay, and the word Great Spirit, for those of you who don't know why I use that word, is because the name God is a man-made element. The name Yahweh, all of those things are man-made. And you insult the original creative force by calling it God or this or that. So therefore, it is a great spirit. It has a spiritual content to it. It is existing before and beyond, and has always existed and always will and shall be existing, because it is there in also around you. It is within you and around you. Yet you are not claiming yourself to be God or Great Spirit, because you cannot. If you try to do that, you actually get whacked on the ground hard if you try to think yourself to be a Great Spirit, because that's just how it works. Okay. Right. And I've discussed the story about the Great Spirit as well. It's in every video, and do a little bit of deeper research. Okay. This channel is not about creating forces and fake shit. Okay. This is a very real existing place where whatever is being spoken on this channel, it resolves and dissolves certain things that do not have to be there anymore when the information is being understood. All right, so we're looking at the counterfeit spirit. Coming back here again, I would like to address it with you in a particular way so that you understand how it operates. But before I go forward, I do want to say to you that when you, this is a side note, but this is a supportive side note, when you pass away, when you leave your physical form, you lose weight. You lose 21.3 grams when you pass away. That little 21.3 grams is whatever you have taken with you, that goes with you. That is you and whatever is with you that goes. So your wisdom or your worries or your crap or your worship shit or good things, treasures and things that are unable to be destroyed. Wisdom, knowledge, guidance, love. Okay, 21 grams. 21 grams is all that you are when you leave your physical form. There's a link at the bottom that will explain that as well. And as per usual, they'll try and find fault with it, but it happens to be actually very well researched. So that is the perspective. If you need to know what you are everything. You are 21.3 grams. That's it. That's it. A little light cell with whatever goes with it. You can decide what you take with you. You're doing it right now. Right, so the counterfeit spirit is a man-made spirit that requires man to build false constructs for it to exist. It comes to bargain with you, to banter with your energy, to barter with you. The bulk of the information that it gets from you is then spread around, okay? But the actions of the counterfeit spirit is always really kind of shallow, because all it does is it entices you with a persistent, endless need to be fed, okay? The counterfeit spirit is not just one singular entity. It's not some god thing. It's not some chaos monster, or some thing that sits there and watches you and pokes you with a fork, okay? You do that. Two things, okay? It is the human consciousness, human mind that does that sort of thing, pokes at people, okay? Kids do that too, because it uses many archetypes to present itself to you. This frequency loves the Luciferians the most. So this is quite contrary, because the Luciferians are the ones that actually work hard to reclaim the Misotheism belief system of itself. So it likes to wear the wound on itself, and this counterfeit spirit loves it, because that is exactly what it feeds into. So when the counterfeit spirit, like an entity, enters a domain, the mind, dominion, thoughts, or a vessel, or a temple, and it now has practitioners that do things in that name of that thing, of that rock, of that pen, of that, the worshippers of the pen, the great pen, okay? It loves this, because it just expands, it becomes bigger, it now starts to become something that is almost animating itself. Yet there's a part of it that seems to be missing all the time, and that is the human part that it needs to live off. So it'll never ever reach a full potential of some sort of singular entity that will exist like what we know. It will try to be a counterfeit entity that exists within itself. Mankind has that nature within them to want to be a godlike productions. I mean, that is just all that it's all about. Is, oh no, I want to just be God, man, and you just got to be my slave, and I just gonna go and get lots of money and just live like a king or a queen. That's all it wants, okay? That's really all it wants. That's part of the basic level of the counterfeit spirit. That's what I'm saying. It's a bit shallow in that way, but it requires the human part that gives it fuel so that it becomes a functioning entity that can exist in its own semi-animated state, whereas it uses the human vessel to attach to. So now it becomes one whole entity in itself, because certain humans like to just be part of that thing. Okay, so that's basically the sum of the whole thing. That's the simple part of it. So when the counterfeit spirit enters this domain now, okay, and let's say all these ancient ideas or knowledge or stories or books and stuff that was written about archetypes, lots of gods of the time, back in the hood when the gods were good and all of that crap. God, that was weird. Anyway, so these spirits, which is then all forming together a counterfeit spirit, is then found within the realm, okay? And like the jinn, which I will explain later, it becomes a present form, a phantom, a phantasm, a thing that exists like a mirage, if you want to give it a physical tangibility to it. But the most important way you'll see it is through the presence of certain people, their behavior. And some people would say, God, that guy is really wicked, you know, he's got black eyes, or he's like this, or he's like that. All right, so it needs humans to exist. So these followers, these practitioners, work really hard to sustain that kick that they've just received after their first magical spell. And they think that that is what that is, and now they've got this whole God status thing coming up, that feeling of energized, but it's all coming from all over the body, and it's a very strong sexual energy which you can pick up from that work, because that's where they feel alive. So what does that tell you on a psychological level? Is that is a person who has some sort of abused aspect to him or her. There's some wound there that is now being venerated and used as a type of frequency that will give it, status. All right. So this particular energy then in himself, herself, themselves become part of that follower that is now placing itself as a subject to that entity. Okay. It now lives in not just the entity, but it lives in the followers as well, and it keeps trying to bring itself together. So with that, it also draws energy from the follower to fuel itself, and the follower is like, I want to just give and serve and be all that it wants of me. Take me, use my body, I'm your vessel. And so you get possession, because that is also what happens. And however, the trick is, it never fully really possesses that body either, because it has to give some sense of freedom to the vessel to be able to feed itself, so that it can function off of that energy. Okay, so it feeds from its number one supporters the most energy. Therefore, then the supporters or the followers require minions to feed them, because they're eternally hungry as well. And those supporters, those minions, go into the world and then are spread around. Some of them are paid, and some of them are doing it without even knowing that they're doing it. Some can be conscious about it as well. Then go for places where it's green, where it looks green and lush, where the roots of the tree looks fresh, where there's some little bits of things here and there. So they go past the shop, they go past the plastic shit. No, they go for the healthy stuff. Like lice go for clean heads. That's what they do. They go towards those avenues, those places, and they may find themselves on channels or places or organizations or communities or even in families where there is a potential for something green, something alive to be born into, to come into presence. Okay. So this is the sum of how that counterfeit spirit operates. It operates in that simple way of explaining. And that is how you get it everywhere, in every place. If you've been into a place and you suddenly feel so exhausted you want to fall over from tiredness, it's because your energy was sucked by some of those minions to feed the great counterfeit spirit, this thing. Okay. It often presents itself as a thing that requires either an adversarial element to it, in other words, evil, or it operates in a position where it can present itself as something holy, something good, something great. And in that way, there is always some exchange between the follower with the entity itself, and the entity presenting itself as whatever poster. It can be a pen, it can be a ruler, it can be a phone, whatever. Okay, it changes the shape. I mean, it's easy peasy. It just changes shape. So whatever works, I mean, it's also in the gaming world, in the tech industry, the scientists, the doctors. It's everywhere. Wherever there is a follower to a particular purpose that requires for the subjects to be subjected in a particular way that is a little bit violent, perhaps, or a little bit destructive, or perhaps a little bit martyristic, or perhaps a bit fearful, or a bit vindictive, that's where it would be. It's in all of those things, and if I've missed out one of those things, just put in the blank, fill in the blank. Okay, so the wicked agency is the counterfeit spirit in action. All right, like I said, if it was only the Luciferians, if it was only the Satanists and Buddhists and Jainists and Masons and Christians and whatever you want to call it, whatever, okay? If it was only one of them, but it's not, it's all of them as a collective, okay? Because, like I said, it's just explained to you, that's where it finds its feed, all right? So understand that the counterfeit spirit operates through these frequencies, but it does love the Luciferians because they are the ones that present the wound the best. So that is where the strongest form of the presence of the counterfeit spirit will be, okay? Because that's just how they set it up for themselves. So they kind of screwed themselves a little bit in that way. I think they know it too. This is why the church had closed down. Apparently it was there for a few years and then it stopped. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, that's basically it. So who do they worship? Who is the counterfeit spirit in its personality, in its presence? Like I said, a force that I would call the head of the wicked agency, or the counterfeit spirit that is mainly in control of all of that. This includes all kind of political agendas, elements, you name it, it's all there, okay? Also, I would hope that your mind does not now run off to build some sort of Zeus-like entity and think that that is what it looks like with black eyes. It's not the case. There's also some stupid image showing that Jesus is having an arm wrestle with the devil. That sort of thing. Don't go there, because it's false imagery to try and entice you to give into it. And I see that thing running around all the time, all the way. Anyway, now they've just put someone else's head on the Jesus body. It's the same thing. It is not some... So what does it... So I can actually see that some of you are going to think like, so how do we conquer this thing? So no, you don't. You can't conquer... If you want to conquer it, you must wipe out all the humans off the world. Okay, because that's how you can conquer it. It comes from humans. All right. So it also doesn't mean that you have to be some sort of avenging type angel to try and be some superhero, whatever. I'm pointing it out to you that that's where it is. That's what it is. It exists. And that where you are, if you can step away from the hero program for a second there, is in a position where you're actually safe. You are unaffected by that conflict. You are, if you know that the only way that it can get in is through 5 places, 6 places, 6 senses. You're in control of your senses. You're in control of 6 doors, okay? 6 senses in your body. And if you're in control of yourself, you're in control of your, let's call it a temple, let's call it a castle, let's call it a home, let's call it the vessel, whatever you want to call it. You're in control of that place, and you are able to close 6 doors in one way or another. If you're in control, if you live inside of that house, this house, all by yourself, without anybody else living there for you or with you, unless it's there for a reason, only you will know your thoughts, then you're in control of those 6 doors or 6 windows. If you close any one of those windows, it can't come in to entice you to fall in line to feed the apocalyptic Hunger Games game narrative. Okay, because that's what they all want. Even the people that are trying to help you, supposedly help you to understand the truth, want you to buy into it so that they can say, actually I was right all along. Now you're gonna see, now you're gonna shit, eh? Nou gaan jy kak, because I was right all along. That's what they want. That's part of the counterfeit frequency. That frequency of counterfeit spirit wants you to get into that panic state. Okay, so when you go outside, you look out out through the window, or you walk outside and you look at the sky. Can you breathe? Can you smell the air? Can you feel the warmth on your skin? Can you feel the cool on your skin? Can you see the snow? Can you see the wind? Can you see the water? Are you dry or are you wet? Are you feeling that? If you experience that, then it means you're in control of your senses. Okay, that is the simple part of it. The deeper parts of it, the metaphysical parts of it, is the more you start to focus on what you're experiencing outside of yourself, the more you're able to understand what is truly inside of you. So, like most things, the counterfeit spirit requires some sort of upgrade or downgrade, however it needs to go. It doesn't seem to qualify how it grades itself. You, as a human, give it an upgrade or not. You decide how you wish for it to be existing in your frequency. And when I say you, I'm not saying this to you as the viewer, unless you are a person who is a worshipper of the luciferianism. You feed it energy and it gives you something in return. You get it from your followers, you get it from your people around you, and those people get it from other people. And so you keep the chain of feeding alive. The Hunger Games is actually all about luciferianism and vampiristic tendencies to feed into certain ideas so that it can actually get a sustenance from it. Okay. But again, the people that decide to want to be gods themselves are automatically being placed underneath the counterfeit spirit energy itself, because it will never surrender itself to you as taking its position over. Because it is because of it that you are there in your little kingdom. Because you've done the magical rituals to get yourself into that little kingdom by taking information and energy from other people. You've built on their blood and their spirit and their soul energy and animals to feed yourself. So you are essentially contributing to the parasitic element of the counterfeit spirit. This is now if you're a worshipper of luciferianism, of course, and everything else. If you're a worshipper of external gods and things. So each and every person that commits to the spell work that's being done in the luciferianism doctrine is a person that is essentially wishing to help themselves get somewhere, to live better, to have certain things happen for them, to never have to work, to get money from out of the thin air, to live in a place that is whatever, okay? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, however you want to live, okay? That's part of that whole thing. But like I said, the spells in themselves come not just, it's not created by the people that are actually operating in the doctrine, but it is coming, it was taken from places such as Crowley, such as Persian mythology rituals, jinn stuff, Kabbalism. Those are the most strongest frequencies that I picked up on in the doctrine itself. Okay, and from people, all right, people that are actually, even the Buddhists as well, and some chaos stuff, which comes from Buddhism inverted. Okay, that's all chaos magic is Buddhism inverted. All right, so as you now are able to see, many of these practitioners are going through these processes right now, so it's a bit of a problem there. So the counterfeit spirit requires the person that wishes to have all of these things to become subjected to that thing. Okay, and that thing will always be at the top, and because it is the carrot that the practitioner or the follower will go towards at all times. There's always going to be new material coming out. Magic.me presents new shit every week to try and get people to pay money. He's just changing up the material all the time. and so forth and so forth. These are all people that are operating in the same hunger drive, because the minute you start to go into these doctrines, you can pick up on the excessive hunger. It is such a strange sensation to be in such hunger. But now you know how vampires feel, because they do make themselves be like the vampiristic elements that they are. They mention it in their works. So now you understand that this is the essence that the counterfeit spirit requires, is to continuously feed it. They have to continuously feed it so it can feed them. So there's this like strange sort of out of balance, narcissistic, parasitic symbiosis perhaps between those two parties, where the frequency of the feeder has to find it from other sources, other people, other places, other things, to continuously feed it. So then you're getting those that actually, they pray that the world never ends, because they may say that they want the world to end, but they pray secretly that the world never ends, or that they can live forever, because they know that if they're gone, if they're physically left, there's nothing that they can take with them other than this empty hole that they've created because of the first spell that they did in order to sacrifice, to create the bond with the counterfeit spirit. It requires a token of your soul, a part of your soul. So the more work you do, the more hungrier you get, the more you shrink your soul, which is your emotional essence or your feminine aspect, and your spirit is essentially naked and is deteriorating. Okay, hence the smell of carrion, because it is written for the dead by the walking dead. All right, that's what that is all about as well. Zombies is just a symbol for the luciferianism as well. So they are dead, okay? The problem is not the author that wrote the book, because this is not against the author. The problem is what is being done with the work that the author has taken from other sources. Okay, and that is being addressed. Okay, so this is not attacking the Luciferianists. This is talking about discussing what is being done with the doctrines of the Luciferianists, like ants eating at the fresh bamboo shoots. Okay, that's basically the issue. So the counterfeit spirit doesn't always need to follow her from some secret lodge or hidden in the Alps to get energy. It gets it from everywhere. But like I said, it takes it mostly from the Luciferians, because they're the hungriest, actually. And the Satanists are confused most of the time. They just go into one direction, and they go to the Masons, and they suddenly veer off to the Kabbalists, and then they suddenly go there again, and then they go Christians, and then the Buddhists, and they're confused. So there's no flow there. But even in the confused state, they man-made chaos state is for them interpreted as a void or a space of eternal false darkness that keeps them hidden in a little hole where they want to be. Hidey hole. That's what I'm hearing as well. So anyway, we have a problem here, which now we are busy clearing up. I've now explained to you as much as I can. The same frequency of the counterfeit spirit finds itself with evangelists, where they sweep people up with fear, with dominance, with projectionism, with cult-like energy. They drive people to go, and they try to part the sea like Moses to try and get their people in through the sea, and you're getting that everywhere. It's that sort of thing, and these people, they fall over. They lose sense of who they are. They lose track of their own identity. They submit to that because they're afraid. Okay, because they're swept up and they are afraid. And you see this even when certain people are preparing to create a raid or a revolutionary moment in time, where they all are threatened by certain authorities that if you don't do this, if you don't vote for X, Y, and Z, if you don't go on the raid with us, we will take your family out. that is part of the counterfeit spirit. That counterfeit spirit requires that rudimentary, basic level of fear that can actually feed it as well. So now I'm hearing you say, so if the counterfeit spirit exists, does this come from the original creative force? No. However, yes, and indirectly, because you come from the original creative force, you are indirectly responsible as a human race, collectively, not pointing fingers to any human. Collectively, the human race is responsible for creating the counterfeit spirit. Not all, only some that wish to follow into a pathway that is self-destructive towards themselves. Okay, I'm not talking about the people that are here that are not self-destructive. All right, you and wounds and injuries and core and shadows and those things are not self-destructive. They are wounds that you've picked up from along the way. And like I said, if you've not go and done a magical ritual against your friend or your family, or you've not gone to slaughter a goat to hurt that person, I'm not talking about traditions now. I'm talking about as magic. Okay, all right, not the same thing. In the following screenshot, I would like for you to see the following aspect, where there is a note made here by the author of the book Sex Magic, written by Adamu, Luciferian Tantra and Sex Magic, written by Michael W. Ford, the author of that book. I can only give you certain excerpts, and I will only give you certain excerpts and quotes because of copyright. I don't feel like having the copyright issue happen. Okay, so I'm going to just tell you as it is. There's an excerpt one here. It says to as. If you read it very carefully, you'll understand that the counterfeit spirit uses that name as probably Azrael or as whatever, Azazel. If you really must get a name, I just don't feel like the names are actually even important in this case. But clearly humans like to have labels and names for these particular entities. It is essentially, the counterfeit spirit is essentially a nameless entity because you can't put all the names together in one go. So it will just be a counterfeit spirit of the followers of Luciferianism, or the counterfeit spirit of the followers of the Pope, or the counterfeit spirit of the followers of the politics, or the politicians, or the country, or the codes, or the narratives, or the belief systems, etc. Okay, so the name as is only a shop front for, or a doorway for, through which the counterfeit spirit reaches in to get to you. So if you say the name, don't say it. If you say the name, if you say it, you'll feel what I'm saying. You'll notice that the frequency draws your face, sucks you to it. Okay, magnetically, and through the base chakra, the stomach, and the sex gonads, the organs. Okay, so that is already in itself a spell put into the name, which comes from Solomonic magic. All right. Okay, so that's all it is. Okay, nothing more than that. And the person that plays, unfortunately, the role of the spirit, because sometimes these followers, these practitioners, they want to feel some visceral presence there, some tangibility to something, is often sometimes just a person that's passed away whose spirit is now being used as something that has a visceral presence. Like, I think Crowley's spirit has dismantled in so many pieces because so many of these followers and practitioners have been trying to use it in their spells. Same like Elvis type of thing. You know, I'm just, as an example, sometimes you can deplete a spirit just like that as well. And then they've also done work on trying to deplete mythological gods and goddesses as well, such as Lilith as well, used coming from the Kabbalistic rendition of the Bible, Adam's first wife. Okay, Adam and Eve, Adam's first wife, whose name was Lilith, who was now suddenly became dehumanized, defeminized and suddenly became the whore of demons, or the mother of demons. Much like what they've done with Luciferian, Lucifer as an archetype, which is something that had a completely different perspective to it in the beginning. Same with names. So, let me just think what other name. Zeus. Zeus is Jesus, Jesus, etc., etc. Okay, so it's not in the name. All right, the energy is all of it, but not in one name. All right, that's what I'm trying to explain. And in all of that energy, that name is a doorway. When it's uttered through the mouth, there is a ritual taking place. Saying it out loud is like a prayer where you switch that energy on. Okay, and so there is that starting up point, as you can see in the material, like I'm showing you right now. It is really all about the seeking to become the godlike entity that a wounded child would want to have. Okay, a wounded person would want to have, because Luciferians are just about being wounded and wearing it like it's a pride. Okay, and I'm not talking about people that have survived cancer. I'm talking about people that are priding themselves, like Dexter, as a murderer, because he's actually a savior of good people. He saves them from evil people, but he's a murderer. Type of thing. That's Hegelian dialectics. It's like saying there's copyright on my work, but I take no responsibility with what you do with it. What does that mean? I mean, it means the same. It means nothing. It cancels itself out. So, this is the deliverance of some truth to the counterfeit spirit in its essence. As I've been saying all this time, this is all a veneration of turning itself into mankind itself into a god. There is a currently pushing through to come and bring in some sort of space war thing happening as well. This is part of that whole thing where man wants to dominate the world by dominating space. Space, the gap between your ears, because that's what space is. You take up space or you don't take up space. Space war really has a double side to it, where there is a dominance, a war, a fight to take control of this space that is inside of your head, between your two ears, where you exist. That's all it's about. Some use vampiristic tactics to do it, some use chaos, but they're all subjects to the counterfeit force, the counterfeit force that dominates the spirit, okay, of mankind in itself as a whole. Some people are able to, with the knowledge of the philosophy on this channel, and I'm going to say this as it is, you're able to move completely away from it. You are untouched by that thing. It is not in your nature to have that inside of you. Many of you have done this for yourself, and you have come back and told me how it has helped you. So yes, you are able to find yourself in a direction where you are moving towards a peaceful heavenly Eden, if you want to call it like that. I hate those terms from those materials, but if this gives you an example, that's what I'm trying to say. So now there is a focus to create themselves to be gods or godlike productions, and a lot of it has to do with getting money and to use a lot of hocus pocus magic to do that. Now, like I said, metaphysics is not and should be understood from the very beginning that is not about magic. There's this false information out there saying that metaphysics is about magic. Metaphysics is not about magic. Metaphysics is about looking at everything within its relationship to itself and another and yourself, and then stepping back and looking at things in an objective way, and then being able to connect to a higher form of awareness. And with this goes the connection to an original creative force that has existed long before mankind could even suck his thumb in the first place. So I do want you to understand that the original creative force operates in a highest powerful force, which is electromagnetic, if you want to use the metaphysical term for it, which is called love. Okay, you have the love that is the love, like I've discussed in an interview before. There is the agape love. There is the love that is within two people for one another in a particular frequency or dynamic. And one does not want to dominate the other in any way, because it is a balanced relationship within yourself, and then you are able to adapt that with another as well, and with that which is around you. That's all it is. And I brought up that I'm connecting to something that is called Great Spirit. I call the original creative force Great Spirit. That is my interpretation of it. As I say, if you are seeing this in that way, good for you. If you don't, it's not a problem. But as long as you're aware that there is a reflection and a respect towards something that is there, that has always been there from the very beginning, and will always be there thereafter. So the following excerpts I'll put in here as well for you to look at, where you are able to see that the focus is on getting some sort of sacrifice here. The image that you're seeing right now, and then there's also the image here, which is the adversary Bible, which I'll put in, and then the ascent as Lucifer, and then the satanic mind, that little thing that's very important for you to see as well. You'll see it now. So it is the force of all humankind in which the counterfeit spirit loves to flourish and can penetrate into and function and do what it wishes to do via whatever rituals are done. Like I said, weak boundaries or no boundaries, irrespective of the levels or degree of where you place yourself in social situations or societies, doesn't matter where you are, makes it easier for the counterfeit spirit to come in and to basically become the image of, or the idol that you worship, or the ideology that you worship or are afraid of. Okay, so that means that, again, the image brought in here as a symbol or an ideology is something that is used in what assists the copying of the same counterfeit spirit, so it can mutate, so it can multiply and be dominant. Okay, however, like I said, and don't forget now that because there's a lot of change towards growth and healing and clearing up false programs within people, within themselves, it has exposed the counterfeit spirit in its entirety. And this is what this body of work is all about. It's about exposing the entire counterfeit spirit in its essence through whatever portals, because Luciferian doctrine is just a portal or a doorway or a gap for this thing to come into. I'm just hammering on Luciferianism because that seems to be the one thing that keeps coming up. There's a lot of people that are actually practicing it in this world. They seem to not see anything wrong with it, except when they have their spirit cooking and whatever you want to call it. That's all part of that same thing. They're going to argue and say, yo, but that's the Black Order of the Rock, or that's this order of it. That we don't do that. We don't, murder chickens or blah, 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 whatever, or babies. Okay, so when these things come up, this is here where the spade will be called a shovel, because that is what it is all about. And as I said, the material that is presented here, as I'm presenting it to you, is all about exposing it and clarifying it and dissolving it. so that you understand. Basically delivering it, basically delivering it. So it is the forces of all humankind in which the counterfeit spirit would love to flourish and can penetrate into via whatever rituals are done. Like I said, weak boundaries, as you know, so that this is copied. Counterfeit energy continuously copying itself and multiplying itself, like you would find with a virus. It will do the same thing, becomes used against you, and more on this a little later. So willpower is weaponized in this excerpt, where willpower is used for the self-gratification as a divine force, and then to become a god. Okay, willpower is a human force. It comes from humans. It's a natural human force. Willpower is always there. If you didn't have willpower, you'd not be sitting here. If you didn't have willpower, you wouldn't get up in the morning. So willpower is, like I said, weaponized, and many things are. Like love is weaponized as well. If you love yourself, there's a misunderstanding that they think it's self-gratification. That's because it's in them a wound that they will self-gratify, so that they feel justified in actually bearing that wound, so that it becomes more present as a wound that is on the outside. I know of people that covered and nurtured their wounds more as their first love than the people that are supposedly their first loves, or their loves, their relationships, their lovers, whatever I want to call it. These are the type of people that are playing in that field of the luciferianistic behavior itself. Okay, so the doctrine is just there for those that are bored, that don't know what else to do with themselves. They want some little magic thing going there. And yeah, and that is a belief system in itself here as well. This is why I'm saying it's not only one culprit or one enemy or one entity. It's about a spirit that has presented itself more than usual over the age of the human existence. Over time, it has essentially taken hold of many things in people. People pander to it because people want to, there's some people that want to hear, oh shame, are you not feeling so happy? Oh shame, sit there and don't do anything. Just sit there and suck your thumb and you'll be okay. They want that. Okay. And those that grow up become, there's no change. They are the same. There's no change. They may look adult, but they are not adults. These forces that are used to feed the counterfeit spirit is based on a base level hunger that is never satisfied. So all of these magical spells that they've discovered over the times that they've put together, MacGregor Mathers, Aleister Crowley, and even before that, and Nicholas Flamel, and all of these people, they've all put all these things in. The guys that wrote the Solomon's Keys, when they did it in their time of maybe being high on hashish or whatever you want to call it, they were all influenced by the same spirit, the same counterfeit entity, the counterfeit spirit that dominates, that seeks that frequency. Like I said, if you had to call it the devil, it's like, well, it's not strong enough to explain the encompassing power of what this thing has over, that it strives to have over all human dominion. It strives to have that dominion over humans so that it can become manifesting itself in a tangible presence, much like it wishes to be very similar to the Gnostic version of the blind demiurge that believes itself to be divine. Okay, and it is still only a half-life. It doesn't have a full life, so it needs the human condition, or the human condition, which consists out of mind, body, soul, and spirit, to be its backing, to back it up, to give it life, to make it prop up so it can stand up, like Pinocchio wanted to be a human boy. It is the same principle. The counterfeit force seeks that at all times, and what it has that works to give it more allegiance is to promise to the worshippers and the followers that they will become God one day. One day you'll become God, and one day you can rule the universe as well. But right now you must just sit there and go and do some rituals, X, Y, and Z, and go turn in the circle and go north, east, south, and west, and there you've got it. Voila, you can get your Ferrari, but it's actually a red Volkswagen. It wasn't a Ferrari. I wanted a Ferrari specifically. No. You actually need to go and steal it. That is how you can get it. You know the 5-finger discount? You can go and steal a Ferrari, and there it is. I'll help you with sending you some spirits, some demons to protect you, so you can go and do that crime. You can commit that crime, and you don't have to do any time. Okay, so that's essentially how it works. So if you want to have food, go and raid houses, go and do those things, because then you're okay. You're protected by by these entities that is continuously being spread around, which are unfortunate for people that pass away when they have lived in that frequency before, and so then become allegiance or subject to the worshippers who conjure them up out of the ethers or the void. So these sources, these excerpts that I've taken from a few sources here. I'll name them for you. It's called Adamu, Luciferian Tantra and Sex Magic. The link is at the bottom. The Bible of the Adversary, the Liber Magic of the Adversary, Beginning Luciferian Magic, and there's a lot more of that. But these are all written by the same author. Again, like I said, there's a copyright thing here. I'm gonna actually follow the respect that I would have normally for any particular author is I will take excerpts and give quotes on them, but I won't discuss the entirety of the material. I'll only take certain parts of it, much like what they do, generally speaking, with other people's work anyway. So we'll just leave it there. Ad lib. So I've procured from these various sources in books to explain how these forces are often put together, because in itself, how these people are most likely the ones that suffer probably the most when they do their magical rituals as well, and therefore then require sustenance to feed them so they're able to do that. Now, I know that this is extremely, it's not a very easy topic to deal with, and maybe some of the information that I've said is perhaps not so, doesn't sound polished enough. And there's a reason for that, because I don't want to discuss more on it other than what is there to discuss. And for you to explain, the actual focus is the counterfeit spirit. Okay, but I will explain in how the counterfeit spirit operates in certain excerpts so that you understand what you're dealing with here. All right, so it is made quite clear that there is a thing that requires actual blood, and that the blood has to be part of the sustenance that will feed the particular magical ritual here. There's also a wish that there is a seeking to venerate the sacrifice of that blood, and often it is done through violence. Okay, that is not new to you. None of this is new to you. You see that we are literally standing in the way of these particular forces, because this is how wars are. It's the same mass ritual for that particular counterfeit spirit to be fed, feeding the engines that they want to build, their war machines, their chaos machines, their news media machines. They're building all of these things up so that they can feed. These are the things they want. So the counterfeit spirit says, okay, let's have a war. And so let's have a war then, and let's see how many people will be cannon fodder, and then we'll take that energy and we'll build with that energy the Lamb of the Blood. That is another thing that you need to take note of. Not a good thing if you take this in the same context of where it is right now. So you need to take note of that. So the counterfeit spirit must be understood as a type of energy that exists within the minds of certain people. I did not say in all people, in certain people. It is present everywhere, but it is mostly active in certain people that do certain things to feed it, to look after it. Okay, you have to be susceptible to it in some sort of impulse or emotional state of condition to be able to be susceptible to it. It also is presented as a type of egregore or a type of hive mind collective entity as well. And those that don't adhere to these war kingdoms or these war machines that are built, they're taken out of the picture because they're just, they can just be used and recycled, because that's essentially what they wanted to bring forward with this new age agenda, is to recycle everything eventually. Aldous Huxley mentioned it in his Brave New World. I mean, it's mentioned in most material those are the prophets, the PROFITSs, who write material, white papers, and then profiteer from selling the books to the mindless chattel that wishes to embrace science fiction. I love it. Let's just read what Brave New World says. Let's make a movie of it. It's even better selling point, or Soylent Green, or those type of things, or Hunger Games, those sort of things. Those are just the ways to feed that little ant some sugar so that it can work for me, because I need the energy from the ant to feed my kingdom. And I need to feed my kingdom, but I need to give from myself to the counterfeit spirit so that I can have this chain reaction of feeding frenzy all the time. Okay, so this is why I keep saying that you need to become aware that you're not looking at something with horns. You're not looking at something that looks like some sort of monster that crawls out of the dark or the deep or the whatever. You're looking at something that is an egregoric energy. The best way to explain it would probably have been in that movie Fallen, I think, with Denzel Washington. If you've not seen it, have a look. It's pretty good. That is a micro level, micro scale example of what we're actually talking with. So it does present itself in a spirited presence, yet it is not a full-fledged spirit, or essence in itself, because it is only a half-life. I've spoken about the half-life before in previous work where I discussed Gnostic stuff. It is the same thing. So now you know that the worshippers of the counterfeit spirit, whether they're in temples or churches or whatever you want to call it, they're the main food source for the counterfeit to keep it going, to keep that egregore entity alive. There's so many narratives that have presented this counterfeit force or counterfeit spirit as a thing that is half alive, half dead. There's romance between a zombie and a vampire, that sort of stuff. That is all presented all the time because they know that they're so hungry they can't help themselves. They are starving, and yet they're just not dying from that hunger. They are constantly having to feed the counterfeit force, because the more they want, the more hungrier they get. And that's how that thing works. So the topology of the particular persons that you may find or may encounter is that these type of people thrive on the cognitive dissonance or surplus energy that you have, that you've not fully utilized within your consciousness. This is why I'm saying, if you listen to something, listen to it in time and space, when you have time, and understand it in its fullness. But if you don't understand the fullness of the expression of this material, then there's surplus energy that stays behind, that is being nibbled on by these minions that are around. Okay, so they also send people out to come into workforces or companies where they're literally shooting down people that bring up new ideas to change certain economical changes. They leave certain things in a junk status all the time. So these are the minions that feed the counterfeit spirit. So essentially, it would not have been present if there wasn't a focus on it on the spirit as being something that is of main importance in this world, because they try to make the spirit into a particular physical presence by feeding it some more, but right now it's actually starving. Even the counterfeit spirit is actually starving and shrinking down. It's becoming so visible now, it's like, let go. It's pulled its tentacles back, small little movements here. You're actually seeing it now fully for its enormity. So whenever there's a boom of energy, when there's a sudden growth spurt taking place, when there's a sudden realization of something that is energetically positive, makes you feel good, makes you feel like you're on the right track, you're going forward, and you needed that person to cheer you on. Whenever there's that boom happening, that is where where the tentacle is trying to go into, sending minions to go into that, to go and pop that bubble, to try and stop things from happening. And most of these people are ones that are actually very much focused on praying for your demise, or using mantras against you, or doing magical rituals against you, because I think by now they've realized that the magic is not always so potent. And or they gang stalk you, or they gang stalk people on certain platforms where people are trying to bring something creative in, and they just don't want it to happen, because if it goes any better, it means that they will have to take responsibility for their own falseness, their wounds that they carry. Okay, and these type of people often love to flourish and function in hierarchies. They like to have something that is that puts them in a subjected space. They don't want to have sovereign consciousness, because then it means they have to feed themselves, they have to clothe themselves, they have to get out of bed and brush their teeth, they have to look after their own physical weight. I mean, it's like, I think it's laziness to a degree, a big laziness, the big lazy. I think that's what it is, because it's a laziness to think, to do stuff. I mean, this is why AI is here, is to try and stop people from thinking and doing troubleshooting. Troubleshooting is now a thing that seems to be okay, at the last resort we'll ask a human at the end of the phone call, only at the last resort, but let the AI bot answer your questions for you on the phone, type of thing. So that's a type of thing that's also being pushed into a narrative for people to believe. And so it's all related to feeding this counterfeit spirit. Okay, so I'm going to run through the books quickly. Book 1 is Adamu, Luciferian Tantra and Sex Magic, written by Michael W. Ford. I'm not going to discuss each chapter. I'm just going to reference certain points. Here's a picture of the author. Okay, and then there's a screenshot here for something that's very important to take note of, that the predominant root of the Luciferian doctrine in itself is really Persian sorcery that comes from, or can be referenced as, Deva Yashna. There's a link here, and I will read from the site, as you can see. Quote, it is Iranian and Zoroastrian deities or divinities or demons. The quote here is from Wikipedia. A deva is a Zoroastrian supernatural entity with the disagreeable characteristics. In the Gathas, the oldest text of the Zoroastrian canon, the devas are gods that are rejected. This meaning is subject to interpretation, of course. Perhaps also evident to the old Persian Deva inscription of the 5th century BCE in the Younger Avestas. The Devas are divinities that promote chaos and disorder in later traditions and folklore. The Devas, Zoroastrian, Middle Persian, New Persia, etc., are personifications of every imaginable evil, end quote. Over time, the Deva myth as div became, or divine, or divinity. This is what I do not call the Great Spirit divine or divinity, because divine and div relates to diva, divinity, deva, which is integrated to Islam, which relates to this thing that is rejected, believes itself to be rejected, which is none other than the same belief system as the Gnostics believe. Okay, if and when they at some point probably, end quote, sorry, realize, that's my opinion now, that they did not matter as much as they thought they would, they started to create a religion to help the ones that felt wounded. So it's like a class or a roadhouse that only serves certain food for certain people. It's like people who only eat certain things, and therefore the system gives it only what it needs. Gives it okay. So that shop is for people who eat everything, and that shop's only for people that eat some things. Okay, so that is now divided. Division, deified. All right. Deva is another quote here. Deva is also from Hinduism, which is cognate with Latin, which is Deus or God, and great Zeus. It says here Zeus. While the words for the Vedic spirits and the words for of the Zoroastrian entities are etymologically related, their functions and thematic developments is altogether different. Originally, the term was used to denote beings of cultural folklore which predate use of scriptures, end quote. So I hope that explains to you where the root of luciferianism comes from, really, from Persian magical stuff. Okay, I've just read to you the quote from that page anyway. So on the first note of the first screenshot, which I'll put back here again, the thing that says dedicated to AZ, it writes here, quote, the whore who brought the fire of life to humanity for those who may see through her eyes, end quote. So again, the feminine attributes of the archetype, which is Lucifer, is the Venus principle here is used. Then further quote to the quote here to the red passion of the serpent goddess Shakti, who installs the sight of Ackerman for those willing to see, and that is also related to why it's very important to think twice when you try to do Kundalini yoga, because this is also used, and this is used to bring everything down into its base level, not up. So basically inflame the gonads, inflame the base chakra, set the ruby on fire. Okay, that is red for the base chakra. Then there's some links here, some parts in that piece that talks about the order of phosphorus, the black order of the dragon, the order of phosphorus, which was a focus on the organization using Zoroastrian, Sumerian, and Western Judeo-Christian esoteric elements. Okay, that says it. That speaks for itself. Then also the Bible of the Adversary in 2007, supposedly written. The chapter is considered an excerpt from the Bible of the Adversary, located in the section called the Book of Taromat, which is tarot, or the story, the story that comes from the Torah, which is a verbal communication to the followers of the Torah. All right, keep that in mind. Then orders of the Black Dragon, just more orders, Dragon Order of Lucerne, and the Military Order of the Dragon, which also relates to a game. And then there's also the China expedition that relates to that Order of the Black Dragon, and so forth and so forth. And then there's a little excerpt here, link here. Wife of Michael Ford, Isella, writes, there's a quote that says, Elder Ford is a natural witch who uses the medium of art as initiations of magical practices. Her primary influences esoterically is Aleister Crowley and Rosaline Norton. Okay, that's that. Then I will tell you what what the chapters relate to one another. It really is chapter 1 delves into the doctrine and why sex magic is important, how it changes your consciousness, and that mainly how it's relative to using Kundalini ritual, which is tied to the black serpent, which is really tied to the black serpent that is in the Sephiroth, which is again the Kundalini. Okay, so going up and down, there's just no expansion. It's just going up and down and in a circle and in a square. There's no expansion in that. Okay, and the images do show that as well. Chapter 2, pretty much about sex magic and wrathful deities and vampires. Here's an insert for you, and here's another insert for you as well, for you to have a look at. And then Jinn, I think, definitely plays a part here. Then then I actually suspect that the root for almost the entire westernized culture practices is really all the books that were smuggled from Persia during the wars, I think, and then that's how they started to build the Western occult up, most likely. But that's just me speculating, of course. And then I also think that most of the work was taken from a book called the Kitab al-Bulhan, which is the book of wonders, I think so. Let me just see the name here. Yeah, the Book of Wonders. Here's a link if you want to see what it is. It's a book about the jinn and Islam's explanation about it. This is also directly inherited by the Gnostics as well. It's difficult to see who copied who at the time. I'm doing it without timelines, but then also timelines are just like there because people like to make it look like it's old when it's not really that old either. We know that people can manipulate timelines as well. You just write a different time there. We've seen that before. Then there's also a focus here. There's a link here for the, like I said, the Book of Wonders. And then the jinn, also roughly translated in the same principles as the demons for the Solomonic magic, which are also the archons for the demiurge. So yeah. Then chapter 3 references the Luciferian sex magic allegories. I'll throw you some inserts here for you to look at. Insert number 3 on the, and then insert number 4, and then insert number 5, and then insert number 5.5, which is the atavism part of the ugly woman, which is something else that has to be put in as well, which is why there's such a push for the model industry to present pretty women, because they become more they would be considered as untouchable. So it's the ugly women that are the easy targets here in this case. So overall, it's important for sex magics also practiced in the astral, believing that if they use witchcraft in order to destroy people that they can drain energy from, to apply the adversarial belief system, which is what they're worshipping for anyway, using tantric and Hinduistic rituals as well. So sex rituals is pretty much dominating the entire thing because it's all base level stuff. So yeah, I'll just move on from here now. Then there's also the belief to initiate and to drain enough energy in order to create their own divine archetype as a living god, which is what they're trying to do. They keep trying to do it. They're now so desperate they're using transhumanist agenda to build themselves to be a god-like entity, like David from the Aliens movie, the AI, the android who was like a god, who became like a destructive god. Pretty much, I think that's what Ridley Scott wanted to explain there. And then there's a link here, very important, that you need to take note of. This is related to the practice of the left-hand path, which is called practice of the Tantra, which is also called Vabhara, however you want to say it. There's a link here that explains that. It's a Sanskrit pronunciation where it explains tantric term meaning for left-hand path and is synonymous with the Sanskrit It is used to describe the particular mode of worship of sadhana, spiritual practice that uses heterodox things to sublimate for spiritual growth. Sublimate. Okay, do you understand what the word sublimate means? Alright, so overall we're actually seeing that the left hand and the right hand modes of practice may be evident in both orthodox and heterodox practices of Indian religions, such as Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism, Buddhism, and are a matter of taste, culture, proclivity, initiations, sadhana, and lineage. So that's basically that. Then the true root for the false construct light or dark of the counterfeit spirit is a mother-father wound. This is the metaphysical part of this discussion now. Why is it there? Why is the mother-father wound there? It is also perhaps a belief of being abandoned, perhaps being overspoiled but not really being loved, perhaps ostracized from society, perhaps abused in a family growing up, and so on. Like I said, if your father was Dexter, you don't have to be like Dexter. You don't have to choose to be Dexter. Many of you are aware that you can actually choose to not be another Dexter, unless there's some sort of side to you that wishes to do that because you've got a proclivity for it, a tendency for it, a desire to have that. Okay, so very important here, understand the difference between false darkness and false light. False darkness is man-made. It is associated and believed to be a type of void space or chaos space where nothing happens. False light is the frequency of doing things. It is to overexpose. You can just imagine it is overexposure. It's like the fluorescent light in your eyes versus natural sunlight. And false dark, yeah. And the true dark is not really a color either. This is what I say to you. You have both parts inside of you, light and dark. And that means the true light and dark, which means if you close your eyes, you sleep. It's dark inside. Not so. If you switch the light off in your bedroom, it is dark because you sleep. That is the soft, natural, pregnant, potential space in which your spirit is within. Not false dark, which is chaos, ridden with demons, riddled with nightmares, so that you're able to not ever find your way out, and then venerating it as, but it's now suddenly true light. It's now suddenly all light. The Lucifer has risen from the dark. Okay, are you seeing this now? Are you actually starting to see the picture where I'm going with this? Alright, true light is within the awareness of knowing who you are. Know thyself, and you are liberated from being subjected to any force that is external or internal around you. Knowing thyself allows you to be able to connect with the original creative force that has always been there, and love is the bridge between those two parts. Okay, actual love, not love that is at the cost of another, not narcissistic love. So I think that pretty much sums up that one book, because I don't have to go through all the pages here, but I can say that it's like 148 pages, and there's a lot of repeat of the same program. It's a lot of repeat stuff in there. This is the one that actually, this particular book is the one that actually makes you feel quite strange, because of the intensity of the hatred that's put in there. Yeah, of the images that are in the book, I can tell you that I've not seen anything that looks exactly like that, except you must probably be on certain things, chemicals, to make you see those type of hallucinogenic impressions of yeah. Okay, then the following book is related to let's see, basically the only outcome of that book is basically self-destruction and being eternally hungry. I think that's like the first, the book that takes you into the nine circles of hell, or shall I say 7 circles of hell, whatever you want to call it. Book 2, Bible of the Adversary, also looking at the second book, same author, Bibles both for beginners, serious adepts, presenting idea. This is the summary of the book, and that's as much as I will discuss with it. The Bible of the Adversary contains definitions of magic, the adversarial doctrine, Luciferian ideology, laws, religion, religious holidays, Liber, Legion, infernal names, mastery of the earth, controlling your destiny, 3 types of Luciferian magic, banishing rituals and preparations, Yatuki, sorcery, and so on. Also baptism, weddings, and funeral rites. Okay, so there's a link. If you want to go and look at it yourself, go and explore, but just be careful. The most important notes that I can basically take from is what it describes itself as a trans-cultural archetype that supposedly has existed before Christianity. So if it has existed before Christianity, then it was really, be careful to say that, because Roman history is older than Christianity, and prior to Christianity and Roman religion, or religions and mysticism, is the Essenes, which is beyond the Christian element as well as the Roman beliefs. So actually, if it says it's the oldest, then I would take it with a pinch of salt. It is not really. It is just of late, because of the Persian Empire, that basically where the information came from. So yeah, because they were afraid of jinn, so they created another thing to be afraid of. So this is basically how you need to look at it. There's Zoroastrianism, which is based on Persia's belief systems. Zoroastrianism is basically like Christianity, but it's got 2 gods. It refers to Ahura Mazda as the good god, and Ahriman as the bad god. So there again, in that, you're looking at the duality, which is also another reason why the counterfeit spirit exists in the first place. If you're not functioning in duality, which means you're not in a divided space within your consciousness, and you're actually a whole person, then you are not touched by that divinity dividing your thoughts from yourself, or taking you away from yourself. That's basically what it's about. So essentially that's what that book's about. It's a book of 333 pages. I mean, yeah. Also, there's followers of Luciferianism has not only been recent, it is actually quite recent. They've also heavily been influenced by the idea of theism, or Telima. In other words, that keys into the Ahriman, which is the bad god in Zoroastrianism. So really, the Christians then believe in the Ahura Mazda type of model. So that kind of blows that out of the water as well. Beginning of Luciferian magic. This one's also very interesting. It's got a lot of, there's a links there. The triangle of art. I've explained this before when I discussed with you the understanding of the trapezoid worship within the Taurus field, or the field that is the energetic field in which all things exist. So in simple, the book is really about magic gained from certain practices and rituals, and to understand some mental and psychological symbols which will make you feel stronger in your magical powers, and to be a god. If it was a success, let's just think logically here. If these books were all a success, don't you think that the ones that they would have, stopped making it because now there's a person who became a god, so now he could just make away all of stuff? Huh? Just think about it. If it was such a success, if becoming a god actually worked, okay, don't you think that it would have stopped things by now. Think about it logically. I'm just putting it out there. So clearly, the more books we write about luciferianism, the more books humans publish about it, the more humans make movies about being witches and being like chosen one, witchcraft, superpower, Power Ranger, whatever you want to call it. And there's just aspirations. It's a carrot continuously that the counterfeit spirit is holding out there for people to go towards, and nothing ever happens. There's no God that has come out of the nowhere that has now suddenly become this whatever thing, because it's not ever going to happen. So it is just yet another money-making racket where there's absolutely zero respect for any awareness that if you do this, you actually break that person's psyche. You can actually destroy that person's consciousness in such a way that they could never ever be able to assist themselves, to help themselves. And it is all done in the same frequency as the worshipping of the counterfeit spirit in itself. Okay, so it's said basically you're looking at something that is called aesthetic Satanism, which means it looks pretty on the outside, it's shiny and it's there and it looks promising, but it's chaotic as fuck. There's just no way for anything to come out of this that could be possibly good in any particular way, other than to take from your energy all the time. Just draws your energy out of you all the time, leaving a lot of bunch of hungry people, minions, to come and look for people to feed them so that they can feed them. Okay, so now that you're made aware of the ridiculous amount of material that's been pumped into the consciousness of human society, under a myriad of banners, and Luciferianism being the easiest one, or the most obvious one, though it's trying to become venerated as its own godhead, because that's the carrot at the end of the stick. The magical practices in themselves, Crowley drove himself nuts. He died a very horrible death. H.P. Lovecraft went nuts. It just explains that there's these people that are continuously looking for this carrot that's glowing in the dark, and this big counterfeit spirit that's basically forcing the frequency to keep perpetuating itself so that it keeps wanting to be birthed as a physical something. It doesn't birth into human form though, for interesting sake, like I said, because it needs the human to be subject to it. So that, based on that hierarchy, that counterfeit spirit needs itself to be the one thing that is being desired all the time. So you're getting all these people desiring all these things, wanting it all the time, and there's just no end in sight. It's just a bunch of hungry people, like zombies, as we speak. There are a few things here that I want to bring up here. Oh yeah, the last one, the magic of the adversary, Liber. It just gives basically, let me explain to you what that is. This is the last book. So Liber, HVHI, and we're not going to say the whole thing. The Grimoire of the Luciferian Path is a pioneering black magical work, recording of the development of this ritual, workings with Akcha via the initiatic stream of the adversarial current between 2003 and published in 2006. It's satanic Luciferian grimoire. Now it's that as well, that offers guidance towards initiation by the infernal rites of the Qliphoth, which is on the tree of of Kabbalah. Okay, Qliphoth, an extensive magical system that presents a solid and understandable way of working with the tree of Da'at, which is the center point of the tree of Kabbalah and its branches. I'll leave that there. So, in conclusion, and I'm not going to go through any more books, I'm done with the books. I do want to explain to you the following. The most important factor to consider is that it doesn't matter how many people come across this path. It panders to the deeply wounded and more so dominantly a trauma bond with the mother or a father or a family. So you're looking at a person who has a deep trauma. This is the drawing, okay, this is why these traumas are inflicted, so that these people are then drawn to that path, to that door, to that temple of the luciferianism. This is also the door for those who are feeling abandoned to come and be rescued. People who feel rejected, a type of shadow, some heavy regrets, etc., etc. And yet, as I say, you can also decide where you are in this, if you choose to be like that, in that position or not. So they have to be occupied, they have to be given things to do, because if they are not given things to do, things to read, things to explore, diving down black rabbit holes, they'll realize that they could actually change, they could actually heal themselves. So again, the counterfeit spirit's presence requires a feeding of that information all the time to keep them like a slow drip, constantly slow drip through the books and the knowledge. That's how most things are projected into this realm. So all archetypes are found in the mind of all human life, alive and or dead, but you are given a mental capacity. You have a mental capacity and intelligence and awareness that helps you to make the decision to actually allow yourself to worship a certain archetype or not, to live within its subjected belief systems or not. And very similarly, it also is up to you, your free will, the choice to have your free will to decide whether you wish to follow into a particular direction or not. You can choose if you want to be one of those people that say, I was right all along, I want the world to crash down secretly. But actually, you need to put all your food together because it's going to be, the sky is going to fall on your head, and use that as a weapon against people around them because they feel that they are alienated within themselves. Okay, that is a psychological condition that these people present and project into the system all the time. I mean, you can see it in everything, in mass streams of nonsensical jargon. Okay, so these people that focus on these archetypes and worship them are people that are static. They don't move, they stay in one place. There's no movement, there's no growth. And if you decide to explore in a particular direction, you are stopped from going there. You're diverted to go into another direction. They do not wish to move, to grow, or to expand in any particular way. So these people seek a continuous reflection onto other people that will show some semblance of movement and life. Remember, like the fleas or the lice that pick a head that is clean, the hair is clean, it likes to go and to live on a clean head. The same principle for the frequency of energy that requires something for it to disperse itself in, okay? A pressure system, high pressure system, low pressure system, there's always that, okay? So this is why I'm saying you can see that this particular group is a static group. I think it's also run out of momentum. There's like that other fool who's got a channel called magic.me who keeps using the same stuff and keeps projecting in new stuff, injecting new things, because he's got he has to maintain a salary. He has to earn a living, a financial living, okay? So the difference between false light and false dark is that false light and false dark is man-made. Take with you the understanding that false light and false dark is not true light and true dark. True light and true dark is coming from the original creative force, because you have a night and a day. The day is not evil, and nor is the night evil. It is what happens in that is either evil or not. Okay, every single thing is within you. light and true dark is the sacred masculinity and the sacred femininity that bonds with one another over the heart, that connects with the consciousness, that allows you to operate in a balanced way so that you are becoming whole while you are in a safe space, you are secure, you are protected, you are loved, you are presenting love to the original creative force by projecting the love back to yourself. Okay, that I've said this many times. So everything is within you. You are the one that decides how you operate these frequencies, how you choose to use them, how you choose to abuse them. It is entirely happening inside of you, and you radiate that frequency out around you. All right. The counterfeit spirit is the counterfeit created force that is being built and has to fall and then rise and fall and rise, but there's no progress. There's just only that same motion of that energy that's going up and down and up and down. The flux of existences of their empires over ages that has been trying to dominate and subject humanity over time. The original creative force is not involved in that because the human condition is the creator of the counterfeit spirit. This is the most important thing to take with you. Therefore, because there's so much power in the ability to create anything, the forces of human conditions become an egregoric entity. Like I said, I've explained it many times. If you worship the pen starts to come alive, or the knowledge of the pen starts to come alive, but the pen needs a vessel, needs a person, needs a worshipper to give it power. The pen is the archetype. The pen is, perhaps in this case, just another version of the mask that the counterfeit spirit wears. And the counterfeit spirit requires the energy of a worshipper to give it life so that it becomes alive. So the counterfeit spirit takes the mask, uses this god, this archetype, and tonks the guy on the head and says, okay, give me some of your energy, give me some of your life force. And he goes, yeah, okay, let's just go and get some people, get a goat, get a baby, get all those things, let's do that thing, let's do rough sex stuff, and let's abuse that woman. Okay, is that enough? Yeah, I like it, give it to me. Okay, I'm giving it to you. I'm giving you I'm hungry. I need to find someone that can feed me because I'm like feeling hungry. I need more. I need more to sustain my palace, my 12 cars, my lifestyle, my richness of myself, my kingdom. Let me go find someone else there. Let's go to the neighbor. Neighbor, I need some of your energy. Yeah, okay, I can get you some energy, but I need to go to someone else there to get it for you. I don't have much, but I can be of service to you. Okay, I'll give you some money. Okay, go. He finds a little person there. Little boy, I need to come to you. Tell me about where you are, who you are, what you are, blah, blah, blah. Do some weird bad stuff. Little boy's gone. I'm here. Let me come back to you. Here's the energy. Thank you. Here's some more money for you. Okay, it starts to grow. Becomes stronger. He's now grown. He's got his own empire. Okay? He's now thinking, what the hell? Okay, I must go back to this. Great God of the pen, I've done exactly what you asked me to do in this ritual X, Y, and Z. I've done really bad things, but I've gotten people to do that for me, so my hands are clean. I did what you told me to do. But the guy that I asked to do, the minion, he just like suddenly became stronger and bigger than me. So what am I going to do? Okay, go and do the same thing. Go do this again. I'm not going to do it again. That's the story. That is the entire story, all summed up in a pantomime for you. I hope that this has given you some insight, some awareness as to what we're looking at, that we're looking at a counterfeit spirit that is kept alive artificially through the whims and the drives and the desires of greed within the consciousness, and the greed to acquire godhood status. Because the one that seeks to become a god never becomes a god.